Hey, everybody. I think we are on the air. I hope we're on the air. I'll find out here in just a second when it comes up over here. But good evening and welcome to Speed Dial with Ready Set Drone. Man, it's a cold night outside. I'm really glad to be inside with all of you guys hanging out here and watching this. Oh, yeah, okay. I gotta mute everything. I hope we're on the air. Well, you'd think I never did this before. Anyway, super excited tonight because I've got my buddy Ed Ricker who's going to join us. I haven't talked to Ed in a bit, but man, Ed is one of these guys. He's a Renaissance man. Renaissance man. He does some acting. He does producing. He shoots obviously films. Does great stuff on his YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out, you just type Ed Ricker into your search bar on YouTube, and you'll find his channel very quickly. Actually, it's funny because I actually typed Ed Ricker in earlier. I was looking for a picture to use for the thumbnail, and all these things popped up about his acting, and it was like he's got a lot of pictures on the internet. So all good pictures, by the way, nothing shady. So, but hey, I want to give a quick hello to my brother Brad Alston from Virginia. Good to see you, Brad. Thanks for joining in tonight. And we've got Sunrise Water Media, aka Chris, who from right here in Austin. We've got Stingray Aerial Solutions, who I think is from Oklahoma. Good to see you. Got Ben T in the house. We got Michael Wright in the house. We got a good crew. I also want to give a big shout out to Rick Halber and say hello to him. Rick, I left you a voicemail earlier. I don't know if Rick's on yet or not, or if he's going to join us, but he had a little bit of health issue going on. So I just want to say hey, and we're all thinking about you and praying for you, man. But I think he's actually on the mend from what I understand. So, all of that said, there's lots to talk about tonight. We're also going to talk about a couple of drones I've got sitting here that I'm pretty excited about. But before we go into all that, let's see if we can get Ed in the house here. So there we go.
Hey,
Hey, I love it when that works.
test 1, 2.
Yeah, you
Ow, now,
sound.
brown cow. Can you hear me?
If a woodchuck could chuck wood, how much wood?
That's too complicated for me right now. It's after 8 o'clock at night here on a Friday. I can't compute. How you doing, Kelly?
Hey man, I'm sure you had lots of other better offers to hang out with cooler people than me, but I appreciate you being here with us, man. That's awesome.
No, I wind down. I don't do a whole lot on Friday nights. I guess ever since I hit 30, I'm pretty chill. So hey, glad to be here. Glad to see a lot of people in the chat. By the way, I said hello a few minutes ago, but I see some new people. So yeah, hey everybody, thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
and also, just so you guys know, it's a little bit later. It's 1 hour later because Ed is in North Carolina, right? So what's the forecast there? I was actually going to fly this weekend, and they are predicting possible snow in Texas this weekend.
They were talking about that here. They said Saturday might be a potential for snow, although I think we don't have that possibility anymore. But today was just rainy, 37 degrees,
Uh,
humid North Carolina coldness. It's really not that fun. Tomorrow should be pretty good though. I think it's brightening up. So I'd love to get out and fly 50 degrees ish, a 7 mile
nice.
per hour wind. Yeah, not too bad.
Very, very cool.
So
And you have a pretty good, I think you told me you have a pretty good field not too far from you that you go to, right?
there's a big one, and it's been recognized a lot of times in my YouTube videos by people who live in North Carolina. It's called Dorothea Dix Park. And it used to be an old hospital, and there was just a lot of other side buildings. And so, as a FPV freestyle person or as a drone enthusiast at large, there's some great places to fly around there. And it's actually one of only 6 parks in Raleigh where it's actually a place where drones are to be expected. They're actually invited to be there out of the
Nice.
90 something that we have. So yeah, pretty
Wow.
cool that we could actually be allowed to fly there.
And you know the cool thing about that, and by the way, I just want to say a quick hello to Sean from Geekspana. Thanks for the 5 pound super chat. I think that's like $50, so that's pretty awesome. Oh, Ken Heron in the house. Good to see you, Ken. And we got Chris Hope, and we got Lone Star UAV. We got Kai. Speaking of Kai, I want to mention real quick, and we got Doc Murdoch. Hey, good to see you, Doc. Doc in the house. Um,
Awesome.
I want to mention what you just said about the size of that field. It
Right.
is when you start flying FPV and when you're flying, especially a big 6S, you can eat up so much ground so fast. You really need a
Mhm.
big space to fly, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. Some of these FPV quads can push 100 miles an hour. So yeah, I mean, you're before you know it, you're at the end of your field. Now it's a good spot also because you can kind of go past it. There's a lot of trees around, so then you can kind of test your long range setups, perhaps, or push the range of your Mavic Pro a little bit within, still being safe and not flying over people and traffic and stuff like that.
Nice. And I also want to give a shout out to Ben. Thank you for the super chat, Ben. Matching Geeksvana, although they are two different currencies, so I still think that 5 pounds is probably worth $50. I don't know. I need to do the conversion, but thank you, Ben, nonetheless. But you mentioned just a second ago about being able to fly in that big open space and being able to
Mhm.
push the speed a little bit, and you also mentioned long range quads. Have you done much with those long range, like the little 4S, say the Crocodile Baby or the Baby Crocodile? Have you seen those or the?
No, I haven't really tested any of those out, although, and I wasn't sure if conversation would get to this, Kelly, but I have it right here. I just pulled this up. It's a little build I'm working on. I don't have the arms yet. So obviously we
Oh,
just have the center of the quad and I have the motors and stuff, but I'm waiting on the darn arms from China. So hopefully in the next couple of days. But this is my first 7-inch FPV quad, long range with these long video antenna,
yeah,
crossfire out the front. GoPro Hero 9 with a GPS module so I don't get lost. And this is what I'm
nice.
going to be taking to Colorado next time I go up and visit Sean.
That's
So
awesome. And so
can't wait.
basically, you built it all out, and it looks like you've got the DJI digital system. Is it a full air unit?
It's a full air unit. And actually, a little secret here that's no longer a secret after I say it on your channel. This is the old HGLRC Sector 5. And
Oh,
the Sector 5 was a little heavy as a 5-inch. So I said, well, you know what? Let's just make it into a 7-inch, Kelly. Why not?
yeah, yeah,
And I did.
and probably a bit more power, bigger motors.
Bigger motors, somewhat. I mean, they're already kind of big for a 5-inch. So honestly, I'm using the same motors, but I'm
Hmm.
using a 5S 2200 milliamp hour battery. So that thing should get us going. Should
Yeah.
be flying around. And remember last time when we were hanging out with Sean Oliver, was trying to fly, and I was just so cold, and my goggles were frosting up, and I couldn't see anything, and my hands were about to die and fall off from frostbite. So hopefully, I'll have a better experience, and maybe it won't be so cold when I visit Sean next. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, it was not only the cold, it was also the I think in Colorado there's a term for it. Do you remember the term that Sean used when you were walking through the snow? Remember what he called it?
Bone chilling. I mean, that's
No, no. It
that's
was
what I
two
would use.
words. It was post holing.
Oh, right.
Post
When you
holing,
go off.
where your foot
Yeah.
goes, your entire leg just goes way down into the snow, and it creates
Right.
like a hole. So basically, he was taking us through fresh powder, and that was, I think, why we got so cold. Well, plus it was really cold and windy, but yeah,
Right.
that
Yeah.
that that was and it turned out like that for about an hour up on the, because that was when we went in his neighborhood, like up on that little trail, right? For
Hmm.
about an hour, the sun came out, and it was actually quite
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah.
But then it got bone chilling again. Quick shout out to Captain Ray Kelly. I see him in the house there. Eat More Possum is here. Thomas from Ireland is here. By the way, I have a funny story because Geeksvana is here. I know I've shipped something to Thomas over in Ireland, but I did ship something to Geeksvana in September. I've said this last time too, but I'm just still shocked. And it just arrived in either December or January. It took like 3 months, and Sean actually
Wow.
said that it had a stamp from New Zealand customs.
Of
So
course.
it must have really taken quite a journey. So the arms that you're waiting for, are they specific to that frame? Is there a reason you can't just
Yeah.
put others on it?
Well, I could have bought a 7-inch frame for $60 and put everything in here, but I thought, it's already kind of built this way. The air unit, that's how it was. The flight controller and the ESC, the camera and everything. So I just thought, well, if we get extra arms, it'd be cool. And then I thought, oh yeah, by the way, we're ordering this from Hong Kong, and it's going to take about 2.5, 3 weeks, and I'm going to be like checking that tracking every single day. I'm going to be regretting doing this, but I said, you know what? Hey, as long as I can get it before February, I'm okay. So, but I'm
Nice,
looking
nice.
forward to it because it's going to be a bi-blade FPV 7-inch quad.
Oh,
It's going to sound crazy. It's going to sound much lower pitch. One of my friends has a Blade 7-inch, and it sounds so crazy. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Almost like a zzz kind of sound instead of a
Yeah, it goes
zzz.
like woo, woo. Like it's a different pitch. It's not like that, that buzzing that you hear with a 5-inch or a 4-inch. So they're my FPV quad sound effects.
Well,
To chew out with them.
did you ever fly a Karma? Did you ever fly the GoPro Karma?
No, 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 no.
I had one for a very, very brief period of time. And I actually remember that the day it was recalled was actually the last election. So it was 4 years ago. But I
Yeah.
had that Karma. And I have to say, one of the coolest things about the Karma, there weren't very many, but one cool thing about it was the sound. It sounded
Hmm.
like an airplane. It was heavy and pretty big. They were trying to make it portable, but it really wasn't very portable. But it made this kind of like, it sounded like a Cessna coming through kind of sound when it flew over you and then
Exactly.
dropped out of the sky. So
Yeah, well, yeah, that's part of why I never wanted to even touch it. I never got into it. I saw one in person once, like 3 or 4 years ago, but yeah, never had interest. By the way, Michael Scott Rue in the chat, he's a friend of mine. He has a 7-inch bi-blade that I'm kind of referring to when I talk about the sound, and I'm just going to answer his question. He says, no arms yet. Scott, supposed to be here either Monday or maybe tomorrow. Yeah, checking that
okay,
track.
yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. What was it? Was it DHL? Shipped DHL or how?
DHL has now handed off to USPS, and so we'll see how quick USPS can get it on a truck. We'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's funny because like pretty much most of the things that I get from China come via DHL, and I've gotten to know my DHL driver actually watches the channel, so he's always like, "So what's this? So what's this?" I'm like,
Exactly.
I don't know, can't tell you. Um,
Interesting.
I did say Karma, Agent K. Sorry, maybe it's bad karma to talk about the Karma. I did really like the Karma grip though, the thing that you could pull out of it and use as a handheld gimbal with a GoPro
Okay.
Hero 7. It was actually a pretty well-made device. Now we've gone way past that, but
All right.
what camera drones are you flying these days mostly?
Well, usually it's going to be like a DJI Mini or Mini 2 or Mavic Air 2. I have a shoot tomorrow. I just heard about like 2 hours ago, and they want me to hit the road by 7 a.m. So this is kind of surprising. But so I have my Mavic Air 2 batteries charging over there. And I like that for the 4K 60 frames per second. I would normally pull out maybe a Mavic 2 Pro or Mavic 2 Zoom, but I like that 4K 60, and really cool that the Air 2 can do that. And then just got this one the other day. This is by
Oh,
Seafly. This is the Faith 2. And this is going to be a competitor of the Mini 2, essentially, or maybe the Mini, direct compare because of the same similar price point. So I've only done one flight with this, and then it rained all day today. Hoping to bring this back out maybe Saturday or Sunday.
what was the person that contacted you named Chandler? Maybe,
Yeah.
do you remember?
Yep.
Yep, I got one of those too. It's
Did he
funny
send you
because
a nice card in the mail too? A nice little greeting card?
no, but I will say that the box it arrived in, it's still up at my office. It arrived earlier this week. I haven't even
Uh-huh.
opened it. I'm going to open it this weekend, but it has two Chinese symbols, and then it says Kelly next to it in English. And the does yours have two Chinese symbols and say Ed? Yes,
Now,
yes.
is that backward for you, or is that right
No, no,
side?
that's
Is it
right.
mirrored?
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah. My friend
That's
works at Cisco Networking. He said he has got some Chinese friends who are going to tell me if that really is my name or some sort
no,
of,
no, no. I know
bad
what
name.
it is. I know what it is.
Okay. You know?
Because yes, because one of the guys I work with actually took Chinese in school and
Oh,
speaks
okay.
it and reads it, and so it means actually literally. He told me the two words, but I can't remember them. But they are beautiful land. So the first symbol means beautiful. That, and I'd love for you to check with your friend to see if but it's beautiful land, and it's actually what they call America. So
Oh, wow. That's
so
awesome.
it's like American Ed Ricker. It's going to America Ed Ricker.
Interesting. Now, for a
Yeah.
minute there, I thought that was just my name translated,
Well,
but that's actually really cool to know.
hold it up to the camera. I wish I had brought. I left my. Yeah, that looks just like what I have. So
Okay.
I think that is. I'll send you a picture tomorrow when I go to the office and get it. I wish I'd brought it home, but
Well, that's
anyway.
cool. I thought it was just like an indicator, like this is for Ed Ricker, and then for those who read that language, that's his name. But okay, that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a trapezoid and goat in a house. That means Ed Ricker.
Wait, what?
Well, the symbols. That it's like supposed to be a little. I mean, they're all based on animals
Well, you
and
do
things like
know.
that.
You do know. Is this a
No,
joke? Are you telling me? Are you telling me a truth? Or are you telling me
no,
a
no, no.
funny?
I'm making that up.
Okay, okay.
So,
I was going to say, I was like, "Whoa, Kelly." No. By the way, there's Ray Kelly was asking what drone that is. It's the same color as an Autel type drone, but this is the Faith 2. Some people call it the Faith 2 Pro. I've seen that. I'm trying to get clarification if it's the same drone. I think the Faith 2 and the Faith 2 Pro is the same drone. But yeah, like 360 bucks. So you got to give it a little leeway because of that. You can't just start ripping it apart like comparing it to a Mavic Air 2 or something. But
right, for the price.
right. So we're
And
determining that. We'll determine that soon, Sunday or Saturday or
so
something.
you did fly it once, though.
Yes, yesterday.
Okay.
One of the only gripes that I can kind of tell so far is that the battery takes between 4 and 5 hours to charge from
Oh
10%
wow.
to 100. It's a USB charge, so it's not like your DJI type battery chargers that would be in a dock or be wired directly to a power source. So the USB is kind of slow.
One thing I will say though about that DJI does well with the chargers, because I was actually just using a Ronin S today and yesterday, and also the same thing with the smart controller. They give you a brick, like a little brick. You have the smart controller?
Yeah,
So you know that charging brick that comes with it.
right.
I don't know if you've compared it, but if you do that versus like I have a lot of wall plugs with USB in them in my house. If you compare that brick charges much faster. It's like a
I
fast
noticed that.
charge.
Ken Dono, original Dobo, was able to tell me that because I texted him about a year ago. I was like, what I was trying to do, I was trying to cover some realty property, and it was a lot of property, and it required also some hyperlapses with the Mavic 2 Zoom, I believe. And I was using the smart controller, and yeah, my smart controller was out of battery before I knew it, and so I plugged it into my car with the USB, and I couldn't keep up. Like I was literally using the smart controller battery faster than I could charge it back up with USB. So then he said,
Wow.
"Yeah, man, use the included brick, wall adapter." And I thought, "Oh, okay, now I understand."
Yeah,
Um,
it is way faster, and they've done that again. They did that with their Ronin as well. I don't know if you use the Ronin at all, but it
yeah,
has that same kind of thing.
yeah.
It I have seen two like situations where if I'm using my phone, like right now, actually, my phone is plugged into a little battery brick here because this is this crazy Google YouTube thing that I'm
Right.
using, and it's on my phone, and it drains the battery on my phone so fast that if I don't have something plugged into it, it'll go dead before this is over.
What
That's
phone,
it.
by the way, are you using?
It's an iPhone 10.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, very
So
cool.
so you're going on this gig tomorrow. You're taking the Mavic Air 2. I do love the Mavic Air 2, although I because I have been flying the Mini 2 a lot more. I haven't been flying the Air 2 as much,
Mhm.
and I'm kind of debating whether I want to keep both of them. Like it feels like one of those things where the Mini is really nice, but the Air 2 is just I don't know. It just feels more beefy and like a real drone to me.
There are pros and cons to keeping. Well, the con is just you have too many drones, you don't get to fly them all. The pro, however, to keeping a lot of these drones is that um, if you want obstacle avoidance and you want to do some tracking or tripod mode with some amount of safety net, with your surround obstacle avoidance of the Mavic 2 Zoom and the Mavic 2 Pro, that's awesome. If you want your 4K 60 FPS, you kind of need your Mavic Air 2, unless you have your Phantom 4 Pro still from a couple years back.
Right.
If you want that portability and you want to stay on the cusp of the latest as a YouTube reviewer, you want to keep that Mini 2. So the Mini 2 and the Air 2 are the most recent drones, if I recall right, from
Yeah,
DJI.
yeah, that's right.
So then it's like, well, you also want to stay current with what everyone's interested in. And I guess at this point, it's like, well, once we get that Mavic 3, if that ever happens, or when that happens, maybe, I don't know anything, but then finally, maybe that type of drone would take the place of all these, and we'd finally have a one drone does it all type deal.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't think we ever will. I think there would have to be too many compromises. I want to say thank you to Jose Drone 04, which it's R$1. Do you see that, Ed? Do you know what that
Yeah, I'm
currency is?
not quite sure what that means,
Huh. Well,
but
thank
that's
you.
cool. Yeah.
I'm curious too. Russian or I
Oh,
don't know.
maybe. Well, yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know many Russians named Jose either. So, but
Hey,
you
super
never
chat.
you never know. Yes, thank you. So yeah, I do think that it is a matter of kind of holding on to them up to a certain point, and then, for instance, Mike Miller, who's in the chat right now, I actually gave him one of my Sparks. I had two Sparks. At one
Mhm.
point, I had four, and
Wow.
that was for a variety of reasons. But I gave him, I had two left, and I gave him the red one, and I just sent that out today. I also sent out Harley FPV's subscriber of the month. I want to give a shout out to Harley FPV. I don't think he's in the chat, but I sent out his package. And then I sent out a package to the winner of the last contest, which was that Potenzic drone that I had reviewed. It was called the Dreamer. It's a 4K drone. I had some problems with it, but I also had, I think for the price, I think I had the expectations set too high.
Mm.
And that's looping back to what you said earlier about the Faith 2. I actually, now that you tell me about it, I didn't realize it was quite as good as it is. It sounds the way you're describing it is better than what I was expecting it to be, as far as being a rival to like the Mavic Air.
Well, and I've only had one flight with it, so I can't really talk about it without having also gone through some of the discussion I've had with their engineers, because I've had some questions. I had a few little problems that I just wasn't sure if it was exclusive to me. I was using the Pixel 5 by Google to control it with the display, and Pixel Android kind of in general, but more than anything, Pixel 5, I've had issues with connectivity with both Bluetooth and also Wi-Fi. For some reason, the Pixel 5 has trouble connecting to the Bluetooth in my vehicle as well. So
Huh.
it's like, is that the problem? So tomorrow, what I want to do is take out the Pixel 4, which seems to not have some of these issues, and see if I get the same maybe app stuttering that I was getting with the Faith 2. But yeah, one of those. Oh, by the way, the Pixel 5 now works with the DJI Mini 2.
Oh,
And as
nice.
maybe a week and a half ago, it didn't. That's one of those things. It's a new phone, it's a new drone. And so as they're updating firmware, as they're releasing new DJI Fly app revisions, like now we're on version 1.2.2, it's slowly allowing more of these display devices to work with it. So we were talking about the Mini 2 and how it's a great little drone. I'm assuming you updated the firmware since the 28th of December, and you
Yeah.
got your 2.7K 60 FPS,
Yep.
and you
Yep.
have your zoom, your digital zoom with your photo mode, and some of these other things that we didn't have. That it's kind of crazy how DJI is able to improve upon their product with just simple firmware
Just
updates.
with firm, yeah, yeah, and that's, I mean, that's kind of the world we live in now, with not only drones but a lot of things. I had a friend who was telling me about Tesla. He has a Tesla, and he bought the updated speed package, and it's literally a firmware update. It was $1,000, and so now his car goes from super fast to even faster just
Wow.
because he paid $1,000. He bought it with his phone too. That's why I'm doing this. He was
Mhm.
like, buy, and charged $1,000 to his credit card, and all of a sudden his car goes faster.
That's
That's
crazy.
that is, well, probably not all of a sudden. There may have been a little bit of software
Right.
downloading. I have seen a few other folks that I want to say hi to. Steve Carpenter. I have missed Steve Carpenter. I haven't seen him as much lately. So awesome. I did see some comments from him in one of my videos recently, but thank you for joining tonight, Steve. Really good to see you again. And I saw Jody from Drone Shots, and I saw Mike B, the Drone Ranger, and like I said, Sunrise or Stingray Aerial Solutions in the house. Man, we have like all the OGs of drones here tonight.
That's awesome. Nice to see
Yeah.
everybody. Very, very cool.
So we were talking a little bit before we got on, and I think I showed you this guy.
Right.
This is the Gep RC Tiny Go. It is what I really love about this, and especially for the camera guys out there. It comes right here with the goggles, and these are box goggles, but they're actually pretty decent box goggles. Normally, when I get box goggles like that, I only use my Fat Sharks. I've actually been using these with this, and these have a DVR built into them. And then the controller on this thing actually is a pretty decent little controller with all of the switches labeled. So it's got the
Okay.
turtle mode labeled, it's got acro labeled, it's got I mean, everything is the rates, the arm switch, it's all labeled. Normally these come and you're like, now what does this one do again? What does this one do again? But they
Right.
really they really did a nice job thinking through
That's
this.
awesome.
Yeah, it's I've been really happy with this little guy. Takes two 1S's, you kind of strap them down here in the bottom, and it comes
Mhm.
with four actually in the package. So, and I'm not trying to sound like an advertisement, but this is the most fun tiny whoop kit that I've seen in a long time. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Tiny Hawk. I flew it with you up in
Right.
Colorado, and Tiny Hawk 2. But their kit is not this good. Their kit is the drone is great, but the goggles and the controller aren't that great. But in this case, it's
Right.
all pretty good. And then I told you earlier, this has a 4K Caddx Loris camera on the front with a
Uh-huh.
SD card slot and a DVR. So
Right.
as you're flying, you're recording 4K footage directly here. You're still getting the analog, the breakup of analog, and you can record in the goggles, and that always looks terrible. But then when you get the actual footage out, it actually looks pretty good.
Nice. Okay, so it's 4K. Do you know what kind of field of view it might be in comparison to, say, a GoPro or something?
Ugh. It is not
Does it
super
does it feel
wide.
narrow or?
Yeah, yeah, a little, probably a little bit narrow, a lot narrower than a
It's to be
GoPro.
expected. Whenever I've seen some of those, like, in built-in 4K, cameras like that, it's a little narrower, but it still looks good, and that's all you got, especially for something that small. It's like, how are you gonna add a GoPro to it, you know? So,
Oh
it
yeah,
sounds
you
like
couldn't.
a good thing. And also, I would imagine that has better video transmission than the Tiny Hawk, because the Tiny Hawk, I'm not sure if you uh, found this, but with my Tiny Hawk and what I've seen in the past with Tiny Hawks, the DVR was very flickery, which meant that the FPV feed was very flickery,
Right.
more so than other small micro quads that I've had in the past. Have you found that to be true?
Yes, yes. Very, and especially, did you ever see the Nano Hawk, the one they came out with that's like probably, about, I don't know, a little more than a quarter of the size of this thing.
No.
So um uh Emax came out with the Nano Hawk not too long ago, and actually Cornell from Emax is going to be on the show in 2 weeks. So if you guys want to know, talk more Tiny Hawks, I won't be showing him this because he's their marketing guy. All right, I
Right.
might. I don't know. He's pretty good guy, so I think he wouldn't mind. But no, this you're right. This might be able to carry a Insta360 Go, but it would be hard to get it on there. And the fact that the footage itself, it's not stabilized, but you can fly, especially indoors or with no wind. You can fly this pretty. It's pretty smooth flyer.
Right. Right.
I'm I'm a big fan of it. My only gripe on it are two things. And Kai, who's in the I don't know if you know Kai. He's Lone Star UAV. He's originally from Germany. He lives in Texas now. I've been flying with him a bit recently, and he's a big guy, like even bigger than me. But I had a hard time getting the card into the DVR slot. It's such a tiny slot, and even with a pair of tweezers, you have to do this sort of like
Right.
gymnastics to get it in there. But yeah, it's worth. So I have a video about this. I actually don't even have an affiliate account with GepRC. I don't know why
Mhm.
they don't do affiliate accounts. I wish they did because they have great products. But I do have a link to it, so it's not an affiliate account. So I'm telling
Mhm.
you, not even making any money on it. That I would highly recommend this if you're looking for an all-in-one kit to get started
I
with.
gotcha. I'm actually on the website now, and I was just trying to see how heavy it might be. Do you know how many grams that is?
Yes, it's 80 grams. 80
Wow, okay.
grams. 80 grams with the batteries, I believe.
Okay, wow, that's even better.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
there you
very,
go.
very, very lightweight. Yeah, and so the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, for everyone that doesn't know Ed, Ed was a speaker at the first spin up, and instead of speaking, he did speak, but he also demoed FPV in the Dell Diamond, which is a professional minor league baseball field. The day before the event, he smashed his drone into the scoreboard. I think you and I were
Yeah.
the only ones there, and I was like, "Oh my God, is anybody from the Dell Diamond here?"
You're
And I was pretty freaked out because I
You
thought,
know, you were like, you whipped out your insurance papers and you're like, let me read my policy real quick and make sure
right,
it's covered. No, 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 nothing broke. It was a problem on my end, and it was good that I test flew it. Although perhaps I should have test flown it over the grass first. But yeah, that was interesting. I
well,
think
it
about it
was,
from time to time.
but Ed did a demo. It was really cool because we all went outside. There were probably about 60, 70 people there that year. Everybody came outside. Ed flew from over the field for everybody, and then narrated as he was flying, and was just talking about. And this is when I know you were a pretty good pilot because you were not phased at all by people asking you questions and stuff while you were flying. Because if I'm flying, I kind of have to just be in the zone and not get anybody asking questions and stuff. So that was pretty cool.
I don't mind people asking questions, and usually I do have a couple people that I'm at least having semi-conversation with. Sometimes if I'm flying and I'm around another person, especially if we're trying to do something in tandem, maybe it's a FPV wing and I'm trying to fly an FPV quad and get footage. We're in constant communication about where we are, what we're doing, what's up next, with which way we're going to turn. And there have been times where I've done follow footage of an FPV quad too. Again, Scott in the chat, if he's still here, I've followed his quad and posted a couple of videos. So that talking and just being in close proximity to another flyer, always going out and talking with each other, it's just something I'm used to, I suppose. It made it a little bit easier, but also I rarely fly alone. And I think a lot of that is also just due to safety and responsibility. If you're around if you're in a park or something and you're flying an FPV quad, you have your goggles on, it's important for you to know what your surroundings are like and to make sure no one's going to be walking by with the dog or coming up to you for, either good reasons or bad reasons. You never know what people are up to these days. So to use the buddy system helps. And in that way, you're kind of used to having people, talking and conversation.
That reminds me of a song, actually, Ed. It goes, "When I fly, I won't fly alone. I'm
Yes,
gonna fly
exactly.
with Ready Set Drone."
Do you
Yeah,
have
I
that
mean,
keyed up as like a sound? You could just like start playing that?
I don't, unfortunately. People hear
Oh,
that song enough, but we did well. There were remixes done of it, right? We had several people that have done some really
I
good
heard at least
remixes
one
of
of
it.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to
Uh,
look at some of those.
Hey, grumpy vlogger, we got Lloyd in the house, just stopping by to say hi. Thank you very much, Lloyd. Always good to see you. I hope you're going to get, well, if you want it, I hope you're going to get some snow up in Oklahoma. But yeah, the actually, it's a hashtag I've actually been trying to promote a little bit, is hashtag Don't Fly Alone. It's kind of long, but I thought it was kind of cool. So the other one I have sitting here is my Newbie Drone 6S, and I was
Oh, very
showing you
nice.
earlier that I've had a couple of I don't know if you can see that, but
Mhm.
couple of the screws have come out of the bottom. So what is your suggestion for making sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah. Well, when you get I'm assuming that was like a bind and fly,
Yeah.
something she
Yep.
got. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's always good to check those screws on the bind and flies. You never know what happened. When I got my Sector 5 originally, but when I still was a 5-inch and had its arms and looked normal, I definitely had to screw in a few of those screws down. Also, though, you want to make sure, especially if you're having problems with that, is to get yourself some blue Loctite, and you can probably find that on Amazon. It was like $6 or something for a little tube. It looks, it's like a tube of super glue. It almost looks like it's
Yeah.
not super glue, but anyway, you can put a little drop of that onto maybe a piece of plastic or a paper plate, and then just dip one side of the screw lightly into it. You don't have to cover the entire screw, just a little dip, and then screw it down. And that Loctite should keep any of those from working their way out. And especially motors. I'll bring up, this is the old X-Night. It's not old, it's new. X-Night 360, but I'm showing you where motor screws are. And that's a great spot to be putting Loctite, because
The
with the
vibrations.
vibration over
Yeah.
time, you'll come down one time, you'll see you have 3 left, and then another day you'll come down, you see you have 2 left. Yeah, you don't want to start messing around. And I'll tell you what happened that day when at the Dell Diamond when my quad fell this guy?
You were missing a screw?
Fell out because of the screw, because the motor flung off
Ah.
the arm. Yeah. So
Ah.
it's serious.
Well, so question about the Loctite, and this is probably something, if I had my man card on me, I could probably tell you, but um, I haven't used Loctite. Does it make it a permanent, does it stick it forever, or is it something where it just makes it better temporarily?
Yeah, it just makes it better. It's you can definitely unscrew it.
You
It's
can
just
unscrew it. Okay.
gives a little bit of a gum to it, perhaps. There's a red Loctite, which I think is a little more permanent, if I got my colors correct. But you can, I know blue is fine. That's what I use, is blue. But
Okay.
yeah, don't go for the red or anything. That might be a little more extreme. But yeah, I mean, just little things like that you can kind of find as you start to work with quads. It's like, how do you prevent these things from happening? There are little tips and tricks.
Yeah. Mike,
So.
Mike Miller says don't use the red Loctite. So,
Yeah, exactly. There he goes. Thank you for the confirmation, Mike.
well, unless you don't ever want to take anything apart. No, that was something that's happened to me on. It actually happened to me on the Rocket as well. I lost a couple of screws, and actually each motor has 4 screws that go in. I ended up getting I'll show you here. I ended up getting this. Talk about ordering something on Amazon. This
There you
is
go.
a all M3 metrics of various lengths, and I'm hoping that as I lose them, this will have enough variation in it that I can replace them. Because those aren't the kind of things they sell at Home Depot. They don't sell stuff like that. Those tiny little. I've been looking
Yeah.
for them, and I finally actually I asked Kai, and he said, "Yeah, just go on Amazon and order M3, and you'll be good to go." I want to say hey to D&D Aerial Views out there. Also to Zeb Meat. I think Zeb Meat's over in the UK. Good to see you. Thanks for joining tonight. Leg Pilot. Every screw you get for a BMX bike has blue on it. Yeah, I guess some of them come with Loctite, maybe already pre applied,
Oh
or is it
yeah.
something?
Well, and if you might, like, I know the motors that I usually order for my 5-inch quads, the screws that come with it, you will see there's a little dab on one side of the edge of the threading of the screw. So yeah, always look for that. There have been some screws that I've, used, and I know I had Loctite on them, and then just screwing and unscrewing so many times with swapping out motors and stuff, you might work it free, and you might work it off the threading. So yeah, just always keep an eye on it. Don't use it too much. Someone in the comments could probably tell us if Loctite is conductive. I don't think it is, but you shouldn't be using enough to even start to be creating a mess anyway. It
like
really
like
is.
like a short circuit kind of thing?
Yeah. Because the motor screws, if you have them too long, could touch the motor windings, and that creates other flame and fire and smoke. So yeah, just use the appropriate length screws. Don't use longer screws. Make sure they're not touching your copper, and then also use just a little bit of that Loctite.
Oh, that's a good point about not making them too long because you could actually get in there and things.
I've ruined 4 motors all at once that way one time. Yep. Not good.
What was the stuff? I forget the name of it because you were super excited when you came up to Colorado last year, and I met you up there that you had coated your entire quad in what?
Conformal coating. And
Conformal coating. Talk about that.
it basically, it looks like, when you order it on Amazon, it looks like a rubber cement bottle with a little thing like a cap, and you have a little brush and everything. But basically, what it does is you would coat your electronics, like your positive and negatives, and anything else of like your flight controller, your ESCs, your motor, where your motors are soldered to your ESCs and that type of thing, and let it dry. And what you can do is you can examine it with a UV flashlight. It glows light blue in a dark room with a UV flashlight. You can
Ah,
see if you missed anything. The important thing to keep in mind with that, however, and there's always everything you do with quads, there is a thing you got to be careful with. In this case, you can't get it on certain components. For instance, your USB port on your flight controller.
that'll
You can't.
ruin it.
You'll ruin it. I've done it before. It'll get in there. So if you do want to conformal coat your flight controller, maybe plug in a USB cable into that port, then start working around it. Don't even touch that port, but that'll ensure that you don't get any of it inside of that port. Also, like your barometer, if your flight controller has a barometer, or certain other, like the boot button, the bind button of certain things,
Yeah,
don't touch those either. Anything where there has to be some sort of
like a
interaction.
spring
Yeah,
mechanism or a
yeah,
plug.
don't cover any of that. I also don't cover the VTX, the video transmitter. I've had those overheat before because I've been a little too heavy handed.
Yeah,
So when I was in Colorado with you guys, I had a drone that was conformal coated, but did not have a VTX conformal coated, and it worked just fine. It was cold. The batteries didn't last very long, but it worked just fine.
and that is one of those things. It's probably just life lesson. And by the way, type 21, I think XXI Wolf says it's not conductive Loctite, I
Great.
believe.
Perfect.
But that's one of those pieces of advice that sort of applies across everything. Is once you put it on there, you can't really take it off very easily. So go light, as far as when you're starting to put stuff on top of the quad. But I do agree. I think before I get too far into putting the screws back into this, I probably should just take them all out and put Loctite on all of them, just to make sure they're going to stay. But you're right. I got excited, didn't check anything, flew it several times, crashed it several times, and then realized at that point, oh crap, I've lost some screws in the bottom, and I don't even have replacements. So
Gotcha. Yeah. And eventually, once you start, working with these quads, you start tearing them apart, maybe making your own. You'll realize you have way too many screws, and you
Right.
never bought any of them, and they're just in a big bowl at the house. You realize, wow, I got more screws than I could ever.
Well, that's when you share with your friends, right? I
Exactly.
might have,
I'm known with you on that.
I might have to ask you to FedEx me a couple
Yeah,
screws because
exactly.
you know what I have a huge bin of, and I don't know why I keep them all, but I've done a lot of like ceiling fans in our house and lights and external lights. I have those little wire nuts. Like every single kit comes with 3 or 4 wire nuts, and then at
Mhm.
some point, I bought a big thing of wire nuts, and then there's always the old wire nuts that are on whatever you're taking off that work just
Right.
fine. I have probably 1,000 wire nuts. I should do something with those.
I always think back to my dad. He's almost 70 now, but I remember he had a workshop. He has a workshop. He's still around, but he's downsized some of his stuff. But I always thought, like, how am I ever going to get all these tools and all this hardware and all this stuff? It's never going to happen. And then here I am, upstairs is my workshop for FPV quads, and it's like, man, this bedroom is not big enough anymore. So
Well,
it's kind
well, and you kind of realize at some point that the minute you actually get rid of something, like I have gotten rid of. I mean, I'm probably going to get tomorrow. Somebody's going to say, "Hey, I really need you to come shoot something, but I need you to do it with a red DJI Spark. You got one?" I'm like, I just set it off.
yeah, the red. You have to get that red
It
for
has,
all
it
these.
has to be red, right, right. I still have my green one. The green one that was the first one I ever really reviewed, so that was pretty exciting to get.
I
And
ever saw a red. I didn't even know red existed. That's cool.
they had the Spark was actually a very cool looking little quad. It was red, green, kind of a light grass green. They had a yellow. It was kind of a
Mm.
sun yellow. They had the Arctic white, and they had a blue. And so I mentioned about I at one point had 4 of them. That was because I had the green that DJI had actually sent me, and then
Mhm.
I wanted to, for some reason, I had this silly idea that on July 4th I wanted to do a video with a red, white, and blue spark, and
Okay.
so I actually did, and it got like 40 views or something. So it wasn't really worth it, but anyway. I did end up with lots of, and actually the other reason I had them was because that's what I gave my kids. Both my kids had a Spark at one point, and they flew
Oh,
them
cool.
a fair amount. Yeah.
It's a good little drone. I remember I sold mine on eBay a while back. But yeah, I made a couple tutorials about it and then thought I had enough. But yeah, it was nothing, no problems with that little guy. Pretty
Well,
cool.
what's going on your channel? Are you got anything? I mean, what kind of stuff are you concentrating on these days? For those of you that don't know.
It's a lot of drone stuff, obviously. I mean, my drone is not in my channel name, but it's still mainly what I do. I'll put out every now and then something unrelated to drones, but it's really the drones that get me interested and seem to get the views. But yeah, just the beta FPV X Night. I'm bringing this up. X Night 360 with that 360 camera, Insta 360 1R,
Oh
right
yeah,
there
yeah. Wait, is
embedded.
that the naked one?
It's the invisible quad. Yeah,
Or
yeah.
the
It's
Wow.
powered off. There's no actual Insta 360 battery in here. It's being powered off by this little wire. Oh, on this side, this little wire.
Okay.
But yeah, you see how the very topmost and bottommost part of this quad, aside from these battery straps, which obviously would be tied down,
Right.
um, highest and lowest part of the quad is that Insta 360 lens.
Oh
So that means
man.
when you process your Insta 360 1R footage using the studio software, this quad completely disappears and you don't see it. You don't see it in the footage at all. It's very
That is
awesome.
crazy. That
So,
where
but I
is
think about that
because
recently.
normally the bottom of the Insta 360 is, if you have it on a stick, right, a selfie
It would
stick.
usually be like this. Yeah, yeah. So to have it like this is a little strange. And sometimes the gyro, you have to kind of start it a certain way. Sometimes starting at level makes the gyro kind of wig out a little bit. If you start like this and then fly like this, you should be okay. But the only thing is also, you can't have any landing gear per se or feet or
Has to be
something.
very flat.
Well, but the thing is, look, if you land, what are you landing on? You're landing on the lens. So
Ah.
you got to pack yourself a soft blanket as a landing pad, and that's how you can land and take off. Unless you're great at hand catching and stuff.
Oh
Uh,
man. I don't know if I'd
that's
hand
the only
catch
down.
that.
Yeah. So I had this blanket that I showed in my review video and spray out there in the park, and everyone wonders if I'm having a picnic or something, and then nope, just fly my drone.
Wow,
So
that's I hadn't really thought about that, but you're right. In order for it to work appropriately, that lens that actually has to be the lowest point of the drone. It can't, otherwise you're
mhm,
going to see stuff.
exactly.
And so I'm sorry that I haven't. I'm going to go watch that review right after this. But what does the footage look like? Just tell us. Everyone, go watch that review.
Well, if you know what the Insta 1R footage looks like already, because it's been out for you
Yeah,
know
yeah, I've got one.
a matter of months. Yeah, so you know what the quality looks like, but the
Yeah,
fact that the drone disappears means that you can get any old angle when you're going forward and you're doing a very conservative flight. You can go into the studio and flip it around, get your planet view. You can look behind you or look straight down. There's really no limit to what you can do. So what I want to do is approach different college campuses or certain other places like that and offer to do tours, 360 fly through tours of their campus
yeah.
when leaves on trees get better. And people are probably going to start stealing my idea in the comments, but that's okay. Sharing the knowledge and the opportunities. But that's one of the things, one of the applications I could think of is just a 360 tour through campus or through some place like that. And people watching are like, how the heck did this? How'd they do this? Well,
Yeah.
that's how you did it.
Yeah. Oh, there have been many things I've seen people do that I'm like, how did they do that? But that right there, and especially when the original bullet time came out, you spun the thing around and it slows everything down. I
Mhm.
did something, Ed, that was just kind of an experiment, and actually it was pretty interesting. So the Insta360 Go, it does have stabilization. It's not a 360 camera; it's a 180 camera, but it has
Mhm.
stabilization, tiny. I actually taped it on the center of frisbee. So I'm big on frisbees. I think we
Yeah.
threw one together in the Boy Scout headquarters.
I have
Um,
one of yours. Yeah.
yep. So I taped it into the middle of the frisbee and threw it with my son. And it's interesting because it will actually compensate for how fast the thing is spinning. It will and up to a point, and then when it gets to a certain point, it just can't take it anymore, and it just goes crazy,
Right.
like the footage. But it's like this thing where it's like steady, then it's going, and then all of a sudden it just
Okay.
starts spinning. Really kind of cool effect, actually.
Huh.
So I'd imagine if you did something crazy with that quad, take it up and then did some kind of dive where maybe you were doing yaw or just kill the throttle and just yawed really fast. I'd be curious to see what that footage looked like.
Well, with the I think it's called flow state stabilization. Is that what it's called in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
studio software? It might just make the image not move at all. I mean, depending on what you do. I've always erred on the side of flying conservatively with this to give myself more opportunity in post production
Right.
to.
You're gonna have better looking footage, but I'm
So
just
I,
talking
I've
about.
never flipped it. I've never dove it, but it would be interesting to try and to see what might be possible. I don't really know.
Oh,
Now
you've
that I made the
never
video and I can destroy it, now maybe it's time to try it. Yeah,
you've never flipped it or never really did anything like that. Wow.
never
So you were
once.
you were trying to use it more almost like a Cinewhoop or the cinematic
I
FPV.
was doing it with post production in mind. Yeah, and
Okay.
so I want to give myself a clean canvas for how to modify that footage. But I mean, hey, I guess that's the next step is to actually try some more acrobatic flying with it and see what happens. Who knows?
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I would think that would be it would be interesting to see, and it doesn't mean you're going to have to go crazy and fly over cement or alligators or roads or anything like that. But I think to see what would happen if you did a big power loop, like how does that translate with a 360 camera? Maybe it doesn't look like anything. Yeah.
That would be good. I mean, there's only one way to find out, Kelly.
Well, and then also with that, the other thing that would be super cool with that is the chasing, right? Because if you're
Right.
chasing another quad, or you were talking about chasing a wing or a fixed wing or any of those kind of things with a quad, which I've been doing a lot of lately. That's one of the most fun things of flying, honestly, is finding. I even have found some buzzards and chased those, and that's not very nice, but it was a tiny
Buzzing the
little.
buzzer. Yeah, yeah.
But if you could chase with that and
Mhm.
have the ability to try to keep the FPV camera. So does it have a digital? Has a DJI a Caddx on it or a DJI camera?
I'm going to add it. This is the analog version. There is a DJI version, but this was the only one that they had available to send. But I'm going to add a Caddx Vista, which would fit just in here.
Okay.
decased Caddx Vista from my Beta 85X actually.
So
That was
that's
just
small enough to fit in there without breaking that plane of the camera.
yeah, it would be a decased Vista though. So basically, it's a Caddx Vista. You just take the plate off, and it's already been done on the 85X, the Beta 85X. So that's what I plan to do. Um, and then I can get the most out of it because I'm not a huge fan of analog. I mean, I can fly analog, and I know people who watch might still be flying analog. I know I have friends who still fly analog. Most of my friends, it seems.
Doc Murdoch.
But yeah, exactly. But with what I do, I've already got the goggles and I already have all my quads converted over. So usually I'd rather just keep it all in the family, the DJI family. Yeah.
Well, so I guess what I'm getting at though is if you were chasing something, and you know, I agree. I mean, you have more range and less breakup with digital, unless you know how to tune antennas like Doc does. But you can chase something. You would have that ability to keep it, you know, keep it right in sight as you're going. And then if you lose it, you've still got the 360 camera that is tracking it. As long as you're not
Yep.
way far away from it, you're going to see it. Oh man, that would be so
Well,
cool.
that's helpful when maybe you're not matching speed, and maybe you get ahead of the person who's flying.
Right.
Maybe, and then you could turn that camera. Also, it's kind of like maybe an Inspire drone, DJI drone, where you have two controllers. One's controlling the camera that would be associated with the pilot, and the other one would be associated with the one that's the cinematographer. Now, you can't actively live monitor your Insta 360 1R footage like that.
Right.
You're flying too far away for your Wi-Fi signal for your app.
Well,
But you could
plus it's got to be
production.
processed.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. But you could still in post production find that perfect camera angle and perfect it way more than you would normally with pilot scale. Unless you're insanely talented. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it just it opens up this world of opportunity to be able to have all those options, right? And
Mhm.
that's the upside and the downside. We talked about this a lot with Sean because he loves 360 cameras. I
Right.
honestly, in some ways, I kind of find him a pain because there's that extra step you have to take, and you have to go in and really look at almost every frame of the video and figure out where you want to point the camera in every frame. Now that's great if you want to do it, you know, and in some cases like this, it would be fantastic. But in other cases, it's that extra step that what would be cool would be is if Insta360 had something kind of like DJI does, where you draw a square around the device or the thing you're chasing, and
Uh-huh.
it basically still just shoots the same way, but in the software, it just keeps that thing centered all the time. That would be pretty cool.
I think you could do that. There's like a follow function like that with the 1R, but the thing is, with the small quad, you'd really have to be close for it to work.
Yeah,
And
that's
it'd be difficult for you to initiate that follow sequence on the
what.
ground and take
Right,
off
right.
and keep it going. So yeah, I don't know what the workflow would be for that. But
I was
yeah,
thinking
it's
more like a wing, you know, like a big wing or
yeah,
something, because
right.
those are fun. Kai, who's in the chat or was anyway earlier, he has a fairly good sized wing that is really fun to fly because it's so big and it's very easy to tell which way he's going, right? Because it only really has, you know, very few controls, and so that's the kind of thing I like to chase. But you're right, I've chased smaller quads, like a small quad with a small quad, and that's hard to do. I actually chased. Actually, Brad is in the chat as well. Brad had just gotten his Mavic Air 2, and we went out to Sean's dad's place where you've been before. Lots of property out there, and I chased his Mavic Air 2, and that was pretty fun. He was in sport mode, and it's not real big, but that thing in sport mode actually it can go. And I was chasing it with the Gep RC rocket, and just basically trying to keep my FPV camera pointed at it the whole time, and that was fun.
Well, and there's another benefit to using 360 cameras. We're talking about post production processing and how it's a pain and it's a lot more involved and everything. Well, you could just upload the footage 360 to YouTube and let the viewer move their
Oh,
camera around. And I know, like Sean, when we were in the ice castle
yep.
last year, that's what he did. He posted that again
I
recently, I
saw that.
believe.
Yep, I watched it. Yep.
In that case, that's the easiest because you're not actually editing at all. You're letting the viewer with their cell phone or whatever device, their finger, if they're swiping around, control the camber view. And
I
in that
think they
case,
can even use like Oculus goggles in some of those videos. And
it's the easiest thing to upload. So,
true.
one or the other, whatever you want to do. That's a good thing to
Yeah,
know.
it depends on the project and such. So you said you got a call for a gig tomorrow. Not to be nosy about your life, but what kind of gig would you go out and do on short notice like that? Is it industrial or wedding
No,
or what are you doing?
it's like a PSA. It's like a COVID themed thing. So, like a lot of these companies, organizations will call me because they want to make a video about updates for how they're handling the situation or what practices or procedures they're undertaking. So it's that type of thing, and it's one of those things they wanted to be out by 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, uh,
Wow.
edited and finished.
So
And
you
I
go
live
shoot in the morning and then edit and
I'm
then
2 hours away. I'm gonna meet him at about 9:15 in the morning, shoot
wow.
it for about an hour and a half, bring my laptop, edit it on site, and then hit the road after that. So there's a rush fee attached to those things. I always charge a little extra when they need something immediately like that. But hey, I'd rather work than not work. Although I was kind of looking forward to flying tomorrow, but hopefully, maybe I'll still be able to. We'll see.
Well, is this a gig where you would fly a drone for part of it?
I'm charging it because I never know. I
Yeah.
always usually bring a drone, especially if I'm driving 2 hours away and I think there might be a chance. So
Right,
if they
right.
want of the building or something like that, the parking lot, then yeah. So I mean, I would say 90% chance no, but I'm charging anyway.
Yeah, 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 and it
I
might even be a value add, right? You can say, "Hey, by the way, I brought my drone. I can get a nice exterior of your building or whatever." I want to give a quick shout out to 808 State, by the way. Thank you for the $5 super chat. But I will tell you, Ed, and I don't know if you found this. I actually flew today for a client. We have a client that makes medical testing devices, and of course, they're involved in. There's a thing called assays, which are these test kits that you get to test for different viruses and all kinds of stuff. I
Mhm.
can't get in. I don't understand it too much, but I know they're not like doing necessarily COVID tests, but they are part of that whole process. So we're doing a video for them for one of their sections where they actually allow you to send in things to be tested by them rather than just using their equipment. But their equipment is very expensive, large things that test your pee and your poop and your blood and all that other stuff, tells you what you have. So they have this industrial complex not far from my house, and you go inside and it's beautiful, but from a drone, it looks like a bunch of warehouses. It's like
Oh,
it's like rooftops are generally very ugly. Don't you
yeah.
agree?
Oh yeah. I struggled with that when I used to work at a university. They always wanted like aerial shots, but it's like that's the only view of the building they never saw. So you have all these gross water stains and
Right.
puddles of water and dried big
Air conditioning
bruise on top.
units and
Yeah, it's never a good view.
dead bodies
Unfortunately,
up there.
you
Like,
never know. Never.
there's Bob. He's been missing for a while. Hey, Artco Drone Solutions in the house. Good to see you, Artco. Thanks for
We got some
joining us,
good
Art.
people. Arco, 808 State. That's awesome. Nice to see everybody.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's been really good. Well, I promised you we'd keep it to about an hour, and we're coming up on that. I want everybody to know I'm really going to be diligent this year about doing these shows. I actually have, do you know Nick Burns? Do you know of Nick Burns?
Sounds familiar. Remind me.
He is a YouTuber, and he has a lot of experience with tiny whoops. Like that's kind of his specialty. So a lot of
Oh,
lot of indoor flight. So Nick Burns is going to be on next week, I think. I should double check that. Actually, let me double check that real quick. But I'm pretty
got
sure
him on
Nick.
here. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
I got him.
Yeah, Nick Burns is going to be on next week, and then in 3 weeks, I've got Cornell from Emacs coming back on, and I've had
Great.
him on once before. Super, talk about one of the nicest, most chill guys. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a quick story about him. So he works for Emacs. He's their marketing guy. When we
Mhm.
were doing Spin Up, Emacs was a sponsor, and they were great. As a matter of fact, I think several people in the audience received Emacs prizes thanks to their
Yeah.
sponsorship. Well, another I won't mention who they are, but another tiny whoop style drone company approached about wanting to be a sponsor too, and I called up Cornell and said, "Hey, I don't want to. You guys were here first. I don't want to overstep it, And he said, "I'll tell you what, competition is great. They can sponsor, and whatever they sponsor, we'll double it." And I was like, "Whoa, I
There
like
you go.
it." And then they ended up the other company. It just didn't have. It was pretty last minute, but I may have them next year. So, and I know everybody's wondering because there's been a lot of questions for me about Spin Up 2021. I am confident it's going to happen. I just don't know the format yet, and I don't know the location, but it's going to be in the fall. I like doing it in the fall because I feel like if it is in Texas or somewhere south, it's nicer to be down here in that time versus in the summer. Um, and and yeah, I mean, it's almost like, football and Halloween and all these things that happen in the fall where they're spin up as well. So I'm going to get myself kind of going on that and try to figure out a format and a location and all that good stuff. And I'll let everybody know. I usually try to let everybody know by like May. So,
Cool.
and I'm certainly open to suggestions from people, but one of these things you have to make it manageable, right? So I have to really realize it's got to be in a place where it's easy to get to, so everybody can get there. Like for instance, Spin Down was a bit challenging because it was up in the mountains, although it was absolutely beautiful. But
Right.
yeah, got to take all those things into account. And of course, we're still in bit of a crazy world at the moment with a lot of stuff, including COVID. And so
Yeah.
hopefully things will settle down, and then I can have a clearer vision of, okay, this can be an in-person event. But I will promise everybody too, even if it is an in-person event like it was the first 2 years, we will live stream it again because I thought that worked really well and people enjoyed that. So
Yeah, it really helps with people who can't make it, or in the case of last year, the majority of people. But I'm
yeah,
looking forward to being there in person and seeing everybody because it's been a long time since I've seen some of these faces in here. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
very cool.
Well, man, thank you, Ed. Once again, if you guys don't know Ed's channel, just put Ed Ricker into YouTube, and you'll find his channel very quickly. He does. I also like, Ed, your channel because I think you do a really great mix between camera drones and FPV. Like you balance those out really well, and do interesting things with those. So people should check you out.
Thank you,
In
thank you. Yeah, I can't ignore the camera drones. I must say I do a lot of FPV flying as a hobby, but I do know that a lot of people had subscribed and are waiting for some of those camera drone videos. So I'm glad and very happy to be able to kind of have a little bit of both on my channel.
Well, and honestly, those are a lot of times those are what get more views. I realized I kind of missed an opportunity. Master Air Screw sent me some Master Air Screw props for the Mavic Air, um, Mavic Air 2, not too long ago, and I really should have made a video because every video that anybody's made about that has gone 10,000,
Wow.
20,000 views. So I'm still going to make one, but I'm a little late
Yeah,
to the game on that. What do
that's
you
all
what do you
right. Hey, it's never too late.
What do you think of
Could be
Master Air
very
Screw
cool.
props? Have you used them?
I don't have any knowledge to be honest of them. Although I'd be interested in trying new props. I mean, I always am, but I can't really speak to them. But I will say about your comment about if it's too late to do something for those types of things with drones as they keep evolving, especially so quickly with Mini 2 firmware getting released, it seems every 2 weeks,
Yeah,
or certain these other things. It's like if you make a video now, it could be outdated in 2 weeks. You never know. So it's like it's never too late. I was talking to Sean about this again because he was thinking about making a video about the Mini 2 as well. He's like, well, everyone else has. And I'm like, but you look when they posted it, as soon as the Mini 2 was released, that was like 3 firmwares ago. It's all
yeah,
outdated.
yeah,
So
yeah.
keep making videos, keep posting them because as things morph, you will stay current. It's never a bad idea to post a video.
That's great advice, and that's not only true of drones; it's also true of cameras. I have been using my Osmo Action a lot more. They had a firmware release not too long ago, a few months ago, that allowed a lot more things like an external microphone. There's a case you can get and run an external microphone into it, which is huge for me. And so that was the thing that firmware release was one. It was Aldrin from Flight Path that made the video that I saw. Yeah, it is interesting what they can do with firmware releases. I think I'm
Yeah.
due for one myself pretty soon, actually. The 2021 version.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for having me on, Kelly. This has been fun. And again, nice to see everybody.
Yeah,
And
guys.
yeah,
Big
great.
shout out to everyone who came in tonight. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the super chats. As I said, I'll be on next week with Nick Burns and Ed. Go check out his channel. Ed, always great to see you, my friend. And I hope we will get to fly together soon, very soon.
All right. Thank you very much. Hey,